Thank you so much, all of you here in the room and those who are looking at us on the internet. Everybody is so welcome. Glad to see you. This morning, I'm going to be talking about a quote from John, 4th chapter. Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. That speaks to something of a habit that many of us have, and that is we think that our good is going to come to us in the future, when the kids grow up and go off to college or get independent. When I retire, when the house is paid for, when I get my credit card debt in shape. Somehow expecting our good to be forthcoming, but not now, in the future sometime. I'd like to suggest that we think about what John has said. Our good is present here now, because God is present here now. Everything that we can imagine that could happen to us in a beautiful way, if we could steep ourselves in that dream, that wish, that fierce longing, it can be ours. It doesn't have to be after certain things happen. God is a giver of good gifts all the time. God is the source of every blessing. And we turn to him and we affirm that now is my good. The fields are white with harvest, and thank you, beloved Father, for helping me harvest those fields. Well, our statement of being is the next thing that we have. And that is this statement that we stand on, we affirm every Sunday. We affirm it to ourselves because it's the truth of us. It's the truth of God. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God and am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Excuse me. I brought a new, fairly new instrument today. This is a harmonium, and it's used in Hindu devotional chanting, which is called kirtan. And it's a beautiful practice. And so I'm going to sing a chant for you, and it's in Sanskrit, and it means, may everyone everywhere be happy and free. And it's just a beautiful blessing. And I love it because it doesn't matter what your faith is. You don't have to be Christian, you don't have to be Hindu, you don't have to be Muslim. Anybody can sing this blessing. And the words are, you can repeat after me if you want to learn them. It's Loka, Samasta, Sukhino, Bhavantu. Yeah, so that's it. So I'll sing it over and over again, and you can sing with me if you want. And by the way, this is a melody that is from Krishna Das, who's a well-known kirtan leader, so give him credit for that. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. 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 Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.
Thank you. It's a wonderful thing to approach religion in a different way. This is a time in our service when we have what we call a healing meditation. And it is a time when we just relax, get still, and remember some wondrous things about ourselves, about God, about the world. So shall we get still for the next 90 seconds when I tell you to start that? First of all, we relax the body. We let our shoulders down, we let our jaws relax. The forehead is not frowning. It too is peace, that's still. The heart center is peaceful and doing exactly what it needs to do for the body. The arms, the back, the legs, all still, calm, at peace. Life is so busy, we seldom have a chance to get still. We forget to make time for it, or we feel like we're too tired to do it. But it is a healing thing to do. It heals our minds and our bodies. Dwelling, if one wishes, dwelling in that infinite presence consciously. It not only heals the body and the mind, it can heal relationships, lack, fear, because with it comes truth. Deep within us, in that inseparable spiritual dimension, lies truth that one sometimes can hear. That special little voice, whether our challenges in life are physical or mental, whether they include other people or just ourselves. Maybe it's family or one's mate. Matters not. As we go within, as we remember them in our stillness, they too are blessed. They too are changed, perhaps infinitesimally, but there is a change. Keeping this in mind, how we are right now giving thanks for the alleviation of that problem, a sense of peace that fills us, the truth that the fields are already white with harvest, and our good is all around us. We go within for that 90 seconds in which we address whatever challenges us, whatever we see in the world that is less than good, starting now. Come to me, all ye who are burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Oh, to rest in that presence, in that awareness that good is right where I am, that solutions are available, that peace is what we strive for, inner peace and outer peace. And we will receive it as we turn to that one and trust. And a little faith, know that God is all powerful, all powerful. And for this, we give deepest thanks. Amen. And then we're going to read, or rather recite, the Nura translation of the Bible. This is the translation in Aramaic. That is the language that Jesus taught. So he spoke to in Aramaic only that we know of. Not Greek, certainly not Latin, that came afterwards. But this is what he said. Shall we start? Our Father, who is everywhere, your name is sacred, your kingdom is come, your will is throughout the earth, even as it is throughout the universe. You give us our needful bread from day to day, and you forgive us our offenses, even as we forgive our offenders. And you let us not enter into materialism, but you separate us from error, because yours are the kingdom, the power, and the song and praise from all ages, throughout all ages, sealed in faith, trust, and truth. Amen. Well, today I'm going to talk about what happened. Now, almost all of you have heard about how divine science came into being. What brought it forth? There was a woman by the name of Melinda Kramer who had been sick for 23 years. Can you imagine? That's stretches back such a long time. And she was, for the most part, an invalid. Perhaps she came out of Quakerism because apparently she would get still and talk to God. But one morning in 1885, she says, and this is her account of it, during an hour of earnest meditation and prayerful seeking, I asked the question, is there any way out of these conditions? Is there any power in the vast universe that can heal me? The immediate and all-convincing response was not an audible voice, but was an intuitive and all-convincing response by a life-giving spirit which penetrated the body through and through, and which illumined and vivified in every atom a newness of life. It was an all-absorbing realization of a presence not heretofore realized. This presence was much more than personal. It was omnipresence and was so real, so vivifying and illuminating that I became it. I realized it to be my life, my being, my health, knowledge, and power. She realized that the creation and the creator are one. There is one God and Father of all, who is in all and through all, and above and beyond and closer than hands and feet and nearer than breathing to every one of us. Within a couple of months, she was an absolutely well woman, not just well, but filled with an ambition, a drive to do something special. She had vowed, I guess to God, that she would serve the truth. And that is exactly what she did. She started speaking in her own San Francisco And then she went all over the country teaching the truth that she had realized and received during this time, and talking about the healing that she had had, as well as healing other people. Then another chapter of what happened is I'm going to speak about now. It happened in the life of a woman by the name of Nona Brooks. Nona was raised in a very well-to-do family. Her father had a salt business. It was a labor-intensive business, actually. A number of men who would take water, actually, out of a salt well and put it in big flat pans, waiting until the water evaporated and then harvesting the salt. Then salt mines were discovered up in Michigan, and it became so abundant that the price of it just plummeted. Nona's father, well, he went out of business. And then he died. The family went from very comfortable, very happy existence to great lack, and in a very short time as well. There was nothing to do but for the balance of the family to move in with Lavinia Small. Lavinia was Nona's older sister, and she had married a man by the name of Small in Pueblo, Colorado. Unfortunately, Lavinia, like Nona's mother, was in poor health. As a matter of fact, every member of that family had some kind of bad health issue. And Charles Small, who was Lavinia's husband, had moved to Pueblo when there was a bust going on, and then the boom going on. And after the boom came a bust, and everything disappeared. All the good that was there originally disappeared. Well, not only was Charles Small in deep financial trouble, but he also had rheumatism, so he was in pain every day. Lavinia's daughter, and she was named after her mother, had nosebleeds that would start and would continue for an indefinite period of time, sometimes for hours, sometimes they had to get the doctor to come and alleviate the nosebleed. Nona, unfortunately, this was most worrisome to herself, Nona had developed throat ulcers, and it made water and most foods burn like fire in her throat. She was able to eat fewer and fewer foods because it caused agony, and she continually lost weight. The doctor's medicines brought no relief to her whatsoever. Nonetheless, she and Sister Lavinia had to do all the household chores that the servants had done back in Louisville. They cooked, they cleaned, they washed, they sewed, they swept, they took care of the children. The small home in Pueblo was out in the desert. It was a quarter-mile away from the nearest streetcar. There weren't any neighbors nearby at all. It was desert. It was a difficult trip just to go to their Presbyterian church on Sunday, although they did it every Sunday because Nona taught Sunday school. These problems had gone on and on and on, and Nona became bitter. She became restless at life and resentful of life. Especially, she became resentful of God. Why was she living this kind of life? She'd always obeyed her parents. She'd said her prayers. She'd go to church, she tried her best to be a good person. Life had always been so good. It was so free and happy and exciting when they were living in Louisville. Her mood became blacker and blacker, and she became convinced that God was not a God of help, but God was a God of cruelty, unjust, unfair. Nights often found her silently crying in her pillow. But with time, her faith finally came back to her. She believed once again in God and His good. And despite the fact that she was only able to eat at one time 7 and then 6 and then 5 foods without excruciating pain, she started praying to God again. She didn't pray for health. She only prayed light. Father in heaven, give me light. Father in heaven, give me light. But what happened next was that a lady friend of the family's, a Mrs. Bingham, who lived all the way across town, got very ill. The doctors in her Pueblo were at a loss for what was going on or how to help her, and they advised her to go to Chicago to a specialist. The specialist gave her no hope except that she should come to Chicago, or she should stay in Chicago and live there for a year and get treatments of a certain kind. Well, Mrs. Bingham had a husband and 4 young children at home. It's absolutely impossible to do anything like that. So she was in a state of despair. What was she going to do? And she met a pupil of Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was a famous teacher and healer. She suggested that Mrs. Bingham go to Mrs. Hopkins. She went, and she was healed. She went back to Pueblo a well woman. Can you imagine how elated she must have been? She wanted to tell everyone what had happened to her, the way she had been healed. And what she did was to start teaching a class at home, and knowing something of the problems that the Brooks small families were going through, she came and visited one day and invited them to come to the class. All these good Presbyterian ladies. Of course, Lavinia refused politely. In the next 6 months, nothing improved at home. Nona was down to 85 pounds. Then Mrs. Bingham visited for the 3rd time and said, I'm going to give another series of lessons, 1 a day. And Althea began to politely refuse again, but she was interrupted by Mrs. Bingham saying, this time I'm not inviting you, I'm commanding you. Well, after she left, Nona just complained to her sister. Why did you say yes? Why? Nona had so little energy, and they'd have to do all the housework that usually took a day. They'd have to do it all in one morning, even partially prepare for dinner. They would need to walk all the way to the streetcar line, take it into town, change streetcars, and take the next streetcar out to Mrs. Bingham's house. They had to get there on time, too. But properly raised ladies never offended another person. That's how they were strictly taught. So they attended the class. After attending Mrs. Bingham's first class, the sisters were kind of amazed. There was nothing new, nothing we haven't known before, they said to each other. All she talked about was omnipresence. And we've always believed in omnipresence. Nona said to Althea, maybe she'll get to the new park tomorrow. Well, the second lesson was about what? Omnipresence. And Mrs. Bingham quoted the scripture for everything she said. It was all backed up by the Holy Bible. She had given the class affirmations that they were to be that they were saying, and they were to speak them aloud. Affirmations like, God is my health. I cannot be sick. God is all. God is everywhere present. God is right here, right now. And these women had been trained by their mother to be obedient. And so this is exactly what they did. The sisters started saying these words, these affirmations, while they were hurrying to do their household tasks. Their attendance at the class really took a great effort because each ride, that is from where they caught the streetcar to downtown, out to Mrs. Wiggins, took 1 hour. So, and returned another hour. But somehow it changed them a little bit, if only because the class forced them out of their daily routine and gave them contact with other people, which they really had not been enjoying at all. But possibly because of those affirmations that they were repeating every day in the morning. On Thursday, the fourth class, they stopped downtown with the doctors, and with great sadness, he said, Nona's case just baffled him. He could not find any reason for it or a cure for it. But there was one final medication that she might take, and maybe it would help her. He was, in fact, giving her a death sentence, wasn't he? Again, as previously, the class was about, what else? Omnipresence. It was nothing that they had not believed, heard before, known always. But Noma thought to herself, doesn't she make omnipresence seem real? Sometime during this fourth class, it happened. Although afterwards she couldn't say when. It was like light, she said. The whole room was filled with light, and she thought that everyone there had seen it. She saw it, why didn't they see it? She simply knew that she was healed. She somehow wasn't really surprised at that. She was only filled with reverence and great joy. After the class was over, she sat silently while the other ladies and Althea just chatted happily with each other. And she sat there remembering the light. She remembered her feelings during that moment. Feeling so free once again and with such joy. As they left the class, she told Althea, I've been healed. And Althea thought she was just saying an affirmation and said that they needed to hurry or they wouldn't be able to catch the streetcar back to town. In the streetcar, Althea talked with great enthusiasm about the class. And then she remembered something. They were going to get some extra food in town that Nona could eat. But they'd forgotten to stop and get it. Nona told her sister once again that she had been healed. The family was astonished when she was able to eat a serving of everything that was on the dinner table. She was completely healed. Later, a couple of years later actually, Nona, her mother, Althea, and her children moved to Denver. In Denver was a third Brooks sister by the name of Fanny, and Fanny James, and she listened to her sisters with great interest, and they began discussing the truths that they had learned from Mrs. Bingham. They found that after a period of time, they kind of disagreed with some of the teachings, but gradually they developed a group of teachings that were so much more in keeping with their belief that God was not only omnipresent, but he was the power for good everywhere, always, and that nothing was impossible for God. It was always he who did the healing, no matter the person who was doing the prayer treatment. God did the healing. They then began healing other people. Fanny Brooks James actually started having classes in her home. Nona was working as a teacher at the time, and she began very happily corresponding with a woman in California by the name of, what else? Melinda Kramer. Melinda had also been wonderfully healed, and so they had something to talk about or rather write about all the time. She too had developed a set of spiritual ideas that was almost identical to the ones that the Brooks sisters had developed as well. And she named her teaching Divine Science. The Brooks sisters asked if they could call their work Divine Science too, and they were given permission. Later, Nona went to California, studied at Mrs. Kramer's school, and was ordained. She went back to Denver and developed a very large church. There were many people who heard and experienced the healings that she was able to produce. And it attracted people tremendously. When Mrs. Kramer died, several months after the great San Francisco earthquake and fire, the Nona's Church in Denver became the teaching, preaching, publication, and healing center for divine science. If it weren't for 3 sick women, we wouldn't be sitting here today. What happened a few weeks ago was that I was going through some old papers in a file cabinet, and I came across, much to my surprise, because I didn't remember and realize that I even had it, was a group of papers labeled, "This is the lesson material given to the group in Pueblo, Colorado, in which Nona Brooks received healing. This was the material Mrs. Bingham received from Emma Curtis Hopkins before Divine Science." I never knew that. I never thought, it said nowhere that Mrs. Bingham had taken a class in Chicago. I thought that she had just been healed by Mrs. Hopkins. And here was the 4th class, exactly the same class when Nona's healing took place. Nona didn't know exactly when, during that class, she was healed. She didn't know what words or ideas in the lecture might have triggered it, or if it was just the appropriate moment for God to bring it about. But it was 100% real. It changed her life, and it changed my life too. What's going to happen is the next time I speak, I'm going to share the material that Mrs. Bingham taught to the class when Nona Brooks was healed. Isn't it wonderful to realize that the fields are white with harvest now? Nothing is impossible to God. God is the source of all good. He is our source of good, and God is always, always available. Shall we close our eyes and go within? Right now, right here, we realize that others have been healed, have experienced a moment of light, truth, and healing. This could indeed happen to us. What if we begin saying affirmations? What if we begin believing affirmations? Perhaps some marvelous thing could happen to us. Appropriate, exactly right. In time, shall we believe together that God is omnipresent, that God is all good, that God is love, patience, truth, abundance, joy. God omnipresent. For this we give the deepest thanks. Amen. Shall we say our we're going to have, no, we're going to have joy, blessing with gifts now, yes, after joy.
You're next, yeah.
I'm on. So this is a Hawaiian affirmation, and it basically means to make things right. And it's a practice to improve relations with your family, your friends, your community, and yourself, because we tend to sometimes beat ourselves up or criticize ourselves. So it's all about self-forgiveness and loving all beings as one, as we know, because we are the same source. So the phrase is Ho'oponopono. Yeah, so you can try that one out. Ho'oponopono. So, and there's an the English affirmation that goes with it is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And so you're invited to sing with me. Ho'oponopono, 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 ho'oponopono. I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you,
love you. I forgive me. I am sorry. I forgive me. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I forgive you. I love you. I forgive me. I am sorry. I forgive you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I forgive you. I love you. I forgive me. I am sorry. I forgive you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I forgive you. I love you. I forgive me. I am sorry. I forgive you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I forgive you. I love you. I forgive me. I am sorry. I forgive you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I forgive you. I love you. I forgive me. I am sorry. I forgive you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I love you.
I enjoyed that. Was really interesting. Take us to other parts of the world and then pray. Exactly, the same message. Peace, love, forgiveness. And now we are going to have the blessing of gifts. Why should we bless the gifts? We bless the gifts because we are recipients of more gifts than we can possibly imagine. We bless the gifts because, well, we are appreciative of those sources that we look at in life and take for granted. We are grateful because we live in a country of freedom. We are grateful because we believe that God is the source of all this good. And so we bless it and we in turn return it because what we give, we receive. That's the way it works. As we give, we receive. So shall we bless the gifts, knowing that those who give will receive and they will give more and more. Today, I acknowledge God, omnipresent, as the source of all good, as the source of my good. With this acknowledgement, I accept God's will, which is abundance in every aspect of my life. I release all thoughts of lack and limitation, and I am open and receptive to the increased flow of abundance to me right now. I joyfully accept the gifts of life and give freely of the special gift that I am. Through me, God omnipresent blesses and multiplies this gift for all. Thank you, dear God. Going to have some announcements? Listening?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Joy. As always, you're just full of joy, and thank you for being here. So, we're going to work on getting you here more often. So, we'll twist your arm after church. Okay, got a few announcements this morning, so sit back and drink your water. The The flowers today are sponsored by Amy Jo. She couldn't be here. She's not feeling well. So she sponsored them in memory of her mom and dad's anniversary. She said, please take them and enjoy them. So everybody take some flowers. I think there's still some some empty spaces on the flower calendar. If somebody wants to sign up and sponsor flowers for a week, please give Pam or myself $20 and we'll make it happen. Next Saturday morning at 10:30, we are having blessing of the animals on the front lawn out here. So if you bring your dogs, bring them on a leash, and if you bring cats, bring them in a carrier. Is that correct? Okay.
Bring a chair too.
Yeah, bring a chair if you want to stay for a while. So anyhow, because we're not hauling chairs down except for Maurita, we'll bring her chair down. So, but anyhow, please come out at 10:30, between 10:30 and 12:30 next Saturday for the blessing of the animals. Yes.
Do we have a adoption with that?
So far, we had not had anybody that could bring that. So I don't know, did your friend Diane ever get anything worked out? Because SPCA and so forth couldn't do it. So, okay. So we'll still try again this week if somebody can do that, would be great. Because I got 2 cats at work, I'd like to see somebody adopt. Anyhow, all right. I wanted to update people on things that have been going on. As you know, our friend Ann's had surgery and she's doing very well. She's out and about a little, and so hopefully she'll be back to church pretty soon, but she is doing really well. Pray that you continue to keep her in mind and send her cards or call her or whatever, so she'll know that she is best here. And if you're listening, you don't, Doug doesn't do as very good job with the lights as you do, so just saying. Also, Bob Brooks has been moved from the hospital to Spring Tree Rehab. He still has a long way to go, so we ask that you keep him in prayer. He can have visitors, so if you have some spare time, please go visit him. That would be great. Some of you know this and some of you do not. Wendy Greer, her father passed away Friday night, and so we don't know any details as far as service or whatever, but I ask that you keep Wendy and her family also in prayer. Some of you know this too. There was an accident this week on Parkway, and it was a 36-year-old young lady. She attended the church at MCC. She also worked with me. So we ask that you keep the people at MCC in prayer because they had a hard time with that, as we all do. And she worked with us for about 11 years. So anyhow, and her funeral was yesterday. So that's going on. Also, a couple other things. Pam's mother and father are not doing well, as well as my brother. So I ask you to keep all those in prayer. So we had a lot going on this week. So we just ask that you keep that in mind. As I say every week, people have things going on you don't know about. So please be kind. Let's see. I wanted to make sure, I announced this the other week, but if you have any items that can go in the store, we're trying to change out some things and get some new stuff in the stores in there. So if you've got anything that you don't want and it's in good shape, please bring it and we'll put it in the store. Let's see. The first Sunday in October, Reverend Watts will be speaking, but he wants to have the service again at Oak Grove Park. So that is our plans, is to have that service at Oak Grove Park on that Sunday morning, weather permitting. So we will I'll announce that again next week. So hopefully that will work out. Okay. I think that's. I'm going to do this starting in October. I'm going to make a snack list for the Sundays. Ask people to sign up for a snack on a different Sunday, so that I'm not the only one bringing snacks. Or when Ann's here, it's Ann and I doing them. So we're going to ask people to sign up for it if they would do that. So we'll make a calendar for October and go forth from there and see what happens. And let's see. Did you have anything, Pam or Maurita?
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night,
Discussion, yeah, reading and discussion.
reading and on Wednesday night, 5 o'clock, and then our happy hours at 6:30. So, and it is happy hours. She always looking at me like, what? Anyhow, and one last thing. I usually only announce this like the week before the election. I know there's an election coming up this year, and I'm surprised that people didn't know that you can vote early. So I wanted to throw that out there, that if you can vote early, please do so. Because I'm surprised this week people say, I know you could do that. So I just want to throw that out there so that you don't forget. And as you know, at this church, we do not tell you who to vote for. You are adults and you know how to make a decision. But I do ask you that you do vote. But again, I want to throw that out there because some people did not know that you could vote early. So it started Friday, I believe, was the first day. So please exercise your right to do that. All right, let's go sing and go eat. So, here.
Oh, she might want to see the prayer. We do the prayer of protection, or go see.
Yes, we're going to have a prayer.
Want to do the prayer first?
Yes, please.
Sorry, Pam, I forgot.
I'm always working around anyway.
Well, let me talk about the prayer of protection. Oh, we daily read about events in various countries that are shocking and dismaying. People who don't have homes, who don't know where to go, or even those who do but are involved in a war. I understand that there is something like 100 wars going on around the world. I was shocked to read that. But we don't hear about the many, many other ones. So we say this prayer for all those people who are experiencing such difficulties around the world. We pray for the whole family of man because everybody has something that they have to deal with just to forgive for love. Shall we say this prayer of protection for all the people, the whole family of man, right now? The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. The mind of God guides you. The power of God abides in you. The strength of God renews you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. And finally, our country is experiencing considerable controversy, differences of opinion that are very strong and perhaps separate people instead of bringing people together with love. So our final prayer is for our country. Shall we each in his or her own way get still for the next 90 seconds and talk to God about healing the divisions, the misunderstandings, the impatience that might be going on, and instead bringing forth peace, inner peace for each and all, starting right now. give thanks knowing that our country is in certain ways helped by our prayer, our faith, that all can be well. Amen. Thank you so much for being here today. Oh, the last.
Let's stand and sing our joy song.